Okay, you go.
I should be good. Okay, cool. Awesome. Cool. All right. So good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Hi. My name is Jazmine Sutton, and I will be providing an informational presentation today on dementia, focusing specifically on Alzheimer's. This is the most common form of dementia, and the title of my speech today is called Fading Memories. So today I'll be going through a couple of items. We'll talk about some facts of Alzheimer's. We'll talk about what dementia is as it compares to Alzheimer's. Breakdown of dementia, causes of Alzheimer's, treatments of Alzheimer's, and my personal associations with Alzheimer's, and a call to action for you guys. So, some statistics. Every 65 seconds, someone in the US develops the Alzheimer's disease. Mind blowing. So if you think about it, I'm up here for 5 to 7 minutes, and within this time frame, depending on how long my speech is, around 5 or 6 people are going to develop this disease just in that time frame. It's amazing if you think about it. Another interesting fact, it's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. More than 16 million Americans provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or other dementias, according to the Alzheimer's Association, which equates, wait for it, 1.8 billion hours of care value at nearly $234 billion. That's a lot, guys. Only 16% seniors receive cognitive assessments during routine health checks. Show of hands, we're not saying we're all seniors in here, but how many people actually ask their healthcare provider for like a cognitive assessment or check on like their mental health? Curious. 1 in 3 seniors 65 and up die from Alzheimer's and other dementia, and this is the kicker, it kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined, which I didn't know that. I was very interested. Another interesting fact, between 2000 and 2017, deaths from heart disease have decreased 9%, while deaths from Alzheimer's have risen and increased at 145%. Which brings me to my next slide. This is the projected rise in Alzheimer's cases that will be projected for 2025. So you'll see these are the different colors, which is interesting because you'll notice this dark red, I don't know if you guys can see it, but are in like the south and the west coast. And one of the other facts that I'll talk about later today is dementia really affects one of the risk factors, is it affects African American communities and Hispanic communities. So if you think about this rise of 42% in these areas, I'm not putting, coincidence together, but majority of African Americans live in the South, and you have more Hispanics closer to the West Coast. So I just thought that was really an interesting, projection looking at the data. So moving on, this brings me to the last fact I like to show, which is this. Now that we know some statistical facts, we'll turn our attention to exactly what is dementia. So I'm focusing more on Alzheimer's, but I want to give you an overview of what dementia is. So this is showing us that dementia isn't a specific disease, it's characterized by a decline in cognitive functions. So these things are different cognitive functions, and these colors and the names of these are showing you the different types of the brain, different areas of the brain, and these are the different cognitive functions in those areas. And so where dementia affects the most is at the pink, the yellow, and the green. So it affects your language, your memory, your decision making, and your planning. And so you'll see a lot of those are in this pink and green and yellow areas. And so now that we know the areas of the brain that Alzheimer's or dementia essentially affects, let's look at a half a laboratory microscopic view of what exactly Alzheimer's is underneath the lens. So this is really nice. So on the left side, you'll notice this is our normal brain, and these are our functioning cells, brain cells that when they're functioning properly, our brain looks like this. Now for Alzheimer's, a patient with Alzheimer's, this is their brain, and these are different cells that aren't functioning properly. And what happens is when the brain cells aren't functioning properly, these over here, that leads to synapse loss, which is resulting into brain atrophy. And all brain atrophy means, it's a fancy word for brain shrinkage. So your brain is really shrinking. So if you bring up like a human brain and you look at an Alzheimer's brain, you'll notice it's a drastic difference. And it's very interesting when I was doing the research on this. But I thought this was pretty cool just to show you the vast difference of the size of the brain. And then understanding like the different, brain cells that go in and about our makeup of the brain. And so synapse loss, all that means is it allows the brain and the neurons that meet to talk to each other. So when there's a lapse, they're not talking to each other at all. So following that brain atrophy, we just discussed, here are some different types or causes of dementia, or different types of dementia. So if you remember in the beginning, I'm focusing more so on Alzheimer's, but there are other types, and so this isn't really clear. But you have vascular dementia, which is the second most common form of dementia. You also have mixed dementia, Lewy body dementia, so you guys can read this fine. But I'll focus on Alzheimer's disease for this presentation. But I thought this was just a great way to look at overall, because people do confuse Alzheimer's and dementia. So Alzheimer's is just a form of dementia, and these are the different other types that they have as well. And so for vascular dementia, it's caused by conditions that block or reduce blood flow to the brain. So some facts for dementia, some risk factors, are genetics, family history, age, race, and ethnicity. And if you remember me talking about it earlier, with race and ethnicity, it's found that for African Americans, according to the CDC, it's at a 2 times greater risk than others, and then Hispanics is at a 1.5 greater risk. But the overall risk factor that they stated was that age, advancing in age causes Alzheimer's at a greater risk, although Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. So it's not, you're getting older, but it's these other factors that are going to contribute to you actually getting Alzheimer's. And then these are all modifiable. So these are things that you can't control, but these are things that you can control, and there's other options out there too. And so treatments for dementia, so there's no cure, but they do have some drug and non-drug treatments. But the big thing is maintaining a quality of life and maximizing the function of in daily activities and other things as well. And so I want to share a personal statement with you guys, a personal story. So my granddad has Alzheimer's. There's different stages of Alzheimer's as well. He's in his 5th stage, and I didn't talk about that in the presentation. But I want to give you a story that my mother sent me and my aunt, who both are my granddad's care providers. So my aunt, and this is a story. Today, Dad called. He asked how I was doing and asked about my girls. He asked me, was I having a good day? I asked if he had eaten, and he said yes. He asked where I worked, and I told him. We exchanged several pleasantries of common stuff. He said he didn't see me, and so he hasn't seen me in a while, and so he asked me to stop by to see him. I told him I would soon. We said love you to each other and hung up. I sat in silence after that call.